We're still staying with the National Assembly. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of Mr. Modibo Tukur as the Director of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU. The confirmation is coming after the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crime recommended that Mr. Haman Tukur be confirmed after he was screened by the committee. President Buhari had forwarded the nomination of Mr. Tukur to the Senate for confirmation. Deputy Senate President Ike Kweremadu is advising the new NFIU director to be neutral and professional while performing his assignment.
The NFIU is very critical in terms of reporting in the fight against corruption. But knowing that Nigeria is a highly political environment, we must also caution at this point that the nominee must remain neutral, he must remain professional. He must realize from the beginning that he owes the job to Nigerians and not to himself or any political party. It is important for him to realize that there must be an end to the job. And after that, what he has done with the job will be what matters. Again, he must not allow himself to be sucked in by any agency. And he must never allow himself to be influenced by anybody. And I believe that we can help that institution by providing adequately for them in terms of their financial requirements and other logistics. This, I believe, will help in keeping them neutral and independent. As long as they are neutral and independent, I'm sure they will help this country in a fight against corruption.
The former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Sabundubade, has been laid to rest at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja. The late military chief, who was born on November the 7th, 1957, served Nigeria as the 18th Chief of Air Staff and the 15th Chief of Defense Staff. He died from gunshot injuries sustained after his vehicle was attacked by unknown gunmen along Abuja Kefi Road on Tuesday, 18th December 2018. Our correspondent Kela Megwa has that report.
Family, friends and well-wishers trooped to the Protestant church at the Nigerian Air Force Base in Abuja to pay their last respects to the former Chief of Air Staff and Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Sabundubade. The homily by the chaplain sets the funeral. In a message tagged the borrowed axe head, he emphasizes the need to make the most of our time on earth, as that time is borrowed.
Not much can I say about him than that. A man that is down simple to the core and flows with everyone. Whatever happens, I say God knows why.
Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade was born on the 7th of November 1957 in Mubi local government area of Adamawa State to peasant farmers. Admitted into the Nigerian Defense Academy 21 regular course on the 3rd of January 1977, he was commissioned a pilot officer on the 3rd of July 1979. He had a master's degree in strategic studies from the University of Ibadan. As a pilot, he was a commander of the presidential fleet during the Obasanjo presidency and clocked over 6,000 flying hours, flying dignitaries such as Kofi Annan and former United States presidents Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter. Alex Bade became Chief of Air Staff in October of 2012 and in his 2-year tenure racked up numerous achievements. His sustained research and development programs ushered new methods of tackling maintenance issues. Becoming Chief of Defense Staff in 2014, he established the Armed Forces Radio, broadcasting from Mogadishu Cantonment to tackle the challenge of negative media coverage against the Nigerian military in its war on insurgency. He also completed the Armed Forces DNA Laboratory, which has allowed for easy identification of casualties of war, the Defense Space Agency, and the commissioning of 30 gunboats in the Niger Delta region. The Air Chief Marshal retired in 2015 and had been embroiled in corruption allegations from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He was killed by unknown gunmen on the 18th of December 2018 along the Kefi-Abuja Expressway. He was 61 years old.
Chief Marshal Alex
At the National Military Cemetery in Abuja, Coursemates, colleagues and mentees tell of his outstanding performance while in service, with the Chief of Air Staff and Chief of Defense Staff vowing to bring his killers to book.
We must continue to work and redouble our efforts in supporting the police and other internal security agencies to ensure that the perpetrators of this heinous crime are brought to book.
He provided leadership and direction to the entire armed forces of Nigeria, especially in the fight against insurgency and terrorism.
The family of the deceased is presented with the national flag, after which the casket is lowered. Wreaths are laid and the volley is fired in his honor. With the last post, it is time to say goodbye. They say death is an inevitable part of life, and today Nigeria bids farewell to one of his most illustrious sons, a man who served his country in many ways, both as Chief of Air Staff and Chief of Defense Staff. The tragic way in which he died is still fresh on the minds of many Nigerians, but the legacy which he left behind in service to his country will remain forever. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
May you so rest in peace. And that's all from Abuja as we rejoin Ijoma in our Lagos studio.
Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. Indeed, may he rest in peace. We'll move on here in Lagos, and many organizations have tried to disprove the myth that science and technology are the exclusive preserve of the male gender. Well, the Christopher Kolade Foundation is in the forefront of this effort with the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, music and agriculture hands-on empowerment experience, also called STEMA Hands-on Empowerment. The foundation held the second edition of its science fair, which exposed female students of public secondary schools to inventions from their peers and experiences from women in the sector. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
Girls attending the second edition of the Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, Music and Agriculture Hands-on Empowerment Fair troop into the hall. They give a standing ovation to Christopher Kolade, for whom the foundation is named.
If you don't have that vision of what tomorrow is going to look like, you cannot take the right decisions today. And that is why we have focused your attention on those things that seem to be the criteria for making tomorrow as beautiful as it ought to be.
The guest speakers stress the importance of education in science and technology while building character for staying power.
STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths, and even now STEAM with arts is really focused on the solving solutions for humans and for the world.
Building a foundation of competence and also being known as someone who can be relied upon to deliver consistent, good quality product, and never stop learning.
Yes. A panel of discussants talks about the circumstances that brought them to where they are. Interest spikes when a question is directed at one of the panelists by a student.
Looking at the current situation of the country, you will realize that mostly it seems like uneducated people are more better than educated. I want to ask why. Should we believe that, do you believe that the saying that education eradicates poverty is just a misleading title?
Thank you so much for this question. I was actually hoping somebody was going to ask that question. It is what everything. It's going to come to a time where we are going to separate the real, the authentic from the fake. It may not be now, it may not be in Nigeria. And because you are not actually thinking local, you are thinking global.
Guests proceed to check out the 2017-2018 She Graduate exhibits, which have almost doubled to 20 since the first fair. Since 2016, the She Initiative has offered hundreds of girls the opportunity to experience science and technology in relatable ways, teaching them to adapt solutions to everyday problems. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Kayode Okikiolu.
You first. First Bank.
Many thanks, Ejima, and you're welcome to Business News. Nigeria's crude grades remain strong at the international market, with differentials making a strong start for the year. Now, this comes as shortages of Libyan and Algerian crude, as well as strong demand from refiners in both Europe and Asia for distillate-rich grades, push up differentials for a number of key crudes, particularly Nigerian grades, to multi-year highs. Bonny Light and Kwa Ibo crude were offered as high as $2.50 a barrel above dated Brent, which are the strongest for two benchmark crude grades since June 2014. And Nigeria's first beverage alcohol company, Guinness Nigeria PLC, is strengthening its partnership with agricultural stakeholders to leverage on the federal government's agricultural reforms by sourcing products input locally. Now, Guinness Nigeria PLC is empowering local farmers with supplements to incentivize the production of inputs into the beverage production process, amongst other efforts aimed at contributing to the growth of the Nigerian agricultural sector. Guinness Nigeria PLC launched its agriculture scheme tagged Grow with Nigeria in Abuja.
Agriculture is the new oil, and many local industries are taking notice. Launching the Grow with Nigeria scheme, the chief executive of Guinness Nigeria PLC says the company stands ready to work with the federal government to empower local farmers to produce unprecedented yields.
Over the last 20 years, our business has consistently sourced all of its core ingredients such as sorghum and malt extract locally through the various local raw materials value chains that we've created in the country. Currently, our local content, like my colleague has shared, is just about 80%, but to be exact, it is 75% of all ingredients that go in production of our brands that we produce in Nigeria, we source it locally. So it is bottles, it is crowns, it is sorghum, it is cereals. Obviously, it is the water and the people.
Stanbic IBTC pledges its readiness to play a central role in agricultural development finance.
Especially in the areas of local job creation, growing our GDP, increasing the use of raw materials in manufacturing, empowering beneficiaries, and encouraging rural smallholder farmers to raise their income and move to high-value agricultural produce.
Thanking partners for facilitating the growth of the Nigerian agricultural sector, the Minister of Agriculture says the unprecedented agricultural growth of today began with tough decisions taken just 3 years ago.
You see the wealth being moved into the rural areas instead of out of the shores of Nigeria, because every time you import anything which you can make, you are importing poverty and exporting wealth. And you are importing dangers which are not visible.
Way that protects the natural environment.
When private firms encourage local participation and facilitate import substitution with Nigerian produce, the Nigerian situation brightens.
Grow with Nigeria.
Stakeholders agree that such win-win opportunities are needed now more than ever. Ajuri Ngilale, Channels Television News.
Let's head over to the NSE, where investors' interest in listed Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks boosted midweek performance at the domestic stock market as the bulls struggle to regain dominance against the bears. Teniola Shobowale tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Despite negative sentiments from 4 key sectors of the NSE, the market's main index rose by 0.46%, closer to the 31,000 level at the close of midweek trading. The positive performance is attributed to 1.64% loan rally by the major components of the banking sector, which also lifted the equities capitalization higher by 52 billion naira. First Aluminium and Fidelity Bank led 19 other advances, up by 9.6% each, while the share price of Resort Savings and Loans topped a list of 10 losers, down by 8.33%. Overall volume of shares traded at the close of today's session increased by over 130 million units against Tuesday's session to 376.26 million, led by the shares of Access Bank, UBA and FCMB. And that's it on the Stock Market Report today. I'm Teniola Shobowale. Back to you, Kayode.
Thank you, Teniola. Meanwhile, it's mixed sentiments for major global stock markets after reports suggest the Trump administration has cancelled a scheduled trade planning meeting with Beijing this week, while strong earnings from industrial giants lifted the Dow. Well, let's see the figures. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikelu. It's now back to you, Ijoma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Still ahead in the news at 10, rescuers express concerns over chances of finding Emiliano Sala alive. Sports listings.